San Andreas can be seen by outsiders as a picture-perfect state that has it all. A diverse city with people from all walks of life, chasing the American dream while spending a fortune doing so. Los Santos. A desert oasis filled with the very same people who came into San Andreas state seeking the dream life, only to realize that life can be harder than expected sometimes, and ultimately chose to reside in Blaine County, a farm town to the northeast side of Sandy Shores. A decent life for those who are willing to put in the work, or at least it was in the past, known as Grapeseed. And a small town to the far north of San Andreas, a decent life without all the hustle and bustle of the city, or the depression-inducing life of the desert called Pledo Bay. The sad truth is that sometimes our dreams can be unrealistic. We can't all live the high life in Vinewood driving a new Pegasi every week. We have to realize that maybe the countryside of San Andreas is the answer to all of our problems. Please leave a like and subscribe for the fantastic YouTube algorithm, and let's dive in. Although it may not look like it, Blaine County and the surrounding area was once a very different place in the past. It was a getaway resort county where Vinewood stars would go during the summer and take in the San Andreas sun that we all know and love. Some even opted to live here full time and support the many small businesses that once called Blaine County home. At one point, in Sandy Shores alone, a town in Blaine County once had a population of 3,010 people, as indicated by the signs on the town borders. A major point of interest and a large driver of the economic activity of Sandy Shores is the lake that the town resides next to. Just imagine owning a lakeside home in Grapeseed, skipping the traffic and opting to just boat over to Sandy Shores and dock at the boathouse, enjoy the day at Sandy and boat back home. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But maybe you're not feeling the lake today. Well, luckily for you, the ocean is just a short drive to the east. Tow your boat right on over and launch your boat into the Pacific Ocean. Maybe you're not such an ocean person, however. Well, the Chiliad Wilderness is just a short drive to the west. You can enjoy the local trails and the wonderful waterfalls and river, or take on the challenge of ascending the famous Mount Chiliad. Or maybe you want your monthly human interaction. Well, the Harmony Strip is a nice place to go to relax. Maybe get your car fixed while you're at it and walk off all those up and atom calories. Blaine County and the surrounding area was simply paradise, until it wasn't. You see, the problem wasn't ever the people of Blaine County. If anything, the people who lived here were shaped by the environment that they saw, that was present. Over time, Blaine County started to deteriorate due to the mega corporations that polluted the area like a cancer, never going away until it was too late. You see, the Alamo Sea was a main driving factor to the success of Sandy Shores and Grapeseed. When the water became unsafe to swim and even fish in, a large quantity of tourists were instantly lost. Trash and debris can now be seen sitting alongside the shoreline of the Alamo Sea, as the people who now live in the area seem to have made the lake their own personal landfill. This may not be entirely their fault though, as I doubt a trash truck comes every Wednesday to pick up the trash created by the residents, or at all even. So the Alamo is the only option. The local runway also became run down as traffic wasn't as common as it once was, now being used as a runway for local drug runners, which also became a major problem in Blaine County. You see, when a town like Sandy sees more people leave than entering, the local government has two options: let it drift off into the unknown, deeming it a total loss, or try to foster a greater environment for the future, make regulations tougher on corporations, and penalize them for what they have done so that it never happens again. Unfortunately, they did not choose the second option, leaving Sandy Shores in the mud, using its downfall to their advantage. When Sandy became run down, the authorities saw an opportunity. The drug runners were inevitable. There would be no sure-proof way to prevent it. So they thought to just cut them a deal, in fact help them smuggle drugs across the countryside. Turns out it's real easy to run illicit goods when there's no one stopping you. Remember what I said earlier though, about the environment shaping its people? Well, Bolingbroke Penitentiary is right around the corner, far from the city and any other towns, except Sandy Shores. And what do they see when they get out after a long stay? Drug runners running rampant, corrupt sheriffs that will take you to the basement of the sheriff's station if you talk too much, a dry desert with no more residents or good people. It creates a terrible cycle of new residents who bring nothing new to the table because they have a terrible model to work off of. Oh, and don't forget the humane labs that will grab anyone off the street to run whatever terrible experiments they have going on at the time. Or maybe an altruist might grab you and you can have fun with them. so at least Sandy's part of Blaine County was a complete disaster at this point. But what's interesting is that despite this, some developer proposed a plan to build a track just outside of Sandy Shores. The details are minimal, but from what we know is that the company proposed a sponsorship to Redwood about it, and surprisingly enough, they accepted the deal and ground was broken soon after. Unfortunately, we have to assume that development hell took place soon after construction started, as the track was never finished, sitting as it does now in its muddied state, with some buildings having their foundation built already. We can only assume that the company was incentivized to build this track next to Sandy, not because of Sandy itself, but because of the value of land near Sandy Shores and the surrounding area, or the lack thereof. A track like this had a perfect home in Sandy, but unfortunately, we may never know what will happen to the track and its property, and Sandy Shores may suffer the very same fate. Fortunately for Blaine County, Sandy Shores is not the only town within county borders. Grapeseed is also nearby and was also once a prosperous farm town, complete with a small town strip of its own and its own airfield. This airfield would not be used for the general public and instead would house the town's crop dusters that the local pilots flew to assist the farmers. Unfortunately, Grapeseed's only real backbone was the local farming industry. Without the farms and the farmers, Grapeseed would be dust, and it was only waiting for its time soon after Sandy's ran out. When the lake became toxic, the farmers didn't want to work in Grapeseed, reasonably so. Children couldn't swim in the lake anymore, and raising a family anywhere near Sandy Shores became a very bad idea. So Grapeseed died soon after Sandy Shores did, with its only residents being weirdos and drug runners or criminals lying low in the countryside from the cops in the city. But some good citizens can still be found here. When the Lost MC was in its heyday, they also used Grapeseed to run goods through and live in as well. Still, Grapeseed is in a better spot than Sandy Shores is in given its situation. Some farmers still opted to do work in Grapeseed, but now it's more of a livestock town than it is crops. Some citizens even still live in the area or the surrounding villages. The lighthouse is still functional on the near coast, with its keeper living on site as well. Also, in a nearby village lies the local fishermen, opting to fish out of the Pacific rather than the Alamo Sea, which is probably a good decision. What's sad about Grapeseed is that it can reasonably be salvaged and back to its former glory with rather minimal work from the local government. Sandy Shores is a bit far gone from that, and there will need to be an entire governmental overhaul to save it. The local sheriffs haven't gotten to Grapeseed yet though, as Sandy has more opportunity than Grapeseed. Unfortunately, this may never happen though, as the local authorities have opted to just let Grapeseed figure out its situation rather than assist it. The locals also have no further opportunities in Grapeseed as well, as jobs are only available in Pledo Bay and Los Santos, both of which are a far drive from Grapeseed and likely wouldn't be worth the trip to probably just make minimum wage. The residents of Grapeseed were failed by their township due to no fault of their own. The infatuating thing about Grapeseed is that if you drove through the town today, you would have no clue what its situation really looked like. Aside from some of the residents, some farmers still breed livestock in the area. The town strip is still relatively alive, complete with an arcade that the city added in late 2019. Although some people have reported suspicious activity going on in the basement of the arcade, no evidence has been brought forward yet, so we have to assume it's just speculation. A military bunker also popped up around mid-2017. The bunker seems to remain rather dormant, besides some trucks exiting and entering the bunker every so often. It seems that Grapeseed has become the place to do shady business dealings without the worry of the law coming after you. They just don't patrol Grapeseed very much or at all, and Grapeseed's situation is unlikely to change for the foreseeable future. Pledo Bay is the third major town in Blaine County and probably the best one out of the three, based on its current situation and its growth opportunities, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. Boy, is it far from it. The thing about Pledo Bay is that it has a major difference from the other two towns of Blaine County. Sandy Shores heavily relied on its lake to bring in tourists who want to go swimming on the weekend and support local businesses while they're at it. When that went, so did the tourism. Grapeseed heavily relied on its farm infrastructure. When the farmers left, so did a majority of Grapeseed's workforce. Pledo Bay really doesn't rely on any one industry. The local railway leads to the Cluck and Bell factory in Pledo Bay and the surrounding area, so that certainly helps due to its consistency. The train will always be there and always have to run through Pledo and pay local and state fees and whatnot. With Pledo Bay also being on the coast, fishing was and still is a contributing factor to the economy as well. Locals would fish for food and sell whatever they had left over. Truckers are also frequent visitors of Pledo, as it has a sizable truck stop to accommodate that. and also has a major highway run right through the town as well. There's also a decent hotel for those who want to stay the night in Pledo, whether that be truckers staying overnight or maybe some hikers who just got done scaling Mount Chiliad. They have a decent place to stay, and they could also get some coffee from the local cafe in the morning. All of these sources of revenue allowed Pledo Bay to thrive as much as it could, but it wasn't foolproof to the issue that everybody experienced, no matter where you were in America: the 08 to 09 economic recession. This recession primarily occurred because of the loose lending procedures of financial institutions in America. The government tried to stimulate the economy after the 2001 recession by making interest rates low, so money was lent out to anyone and everyone. Because everyone was able to get a loan, housing prices rose to accommodate the inflated demand. Interest rates then soared far more than what people could afford, causing them to default on the loan and the home to go into foreclosure. The major problem with this is that with so many homes into foreclosure and people not having money to buy homes anymore, many houses sat vacant, with the bank being left out of pocket, unable to get rid of the home to recover any amount of the initial loan. The federal government then had to bail out the banks to keep them afloat as well. Pledo Bay too felt this impact, not so much on the residential side, but the commercial side. A dealership was set to open in Pledo Bay, bringing premium cars to the local market, but of course, due to the recession, it never did. People didn't exactly have upwards of 30 grand to drop on a new car at the time. This stunted a lot of Pledo Bay's early growth when it was supposed to be the best time for growth. Unfortunately, as time passed, some damning problems started to arise in Pledo Bay. A Los Santos gang known as the Ballists had started to pack and ship drugs out of a local sawmill just a short drive from Pledo Bay. Originally, reports came out about the operation being held here, but the files were later wiped clean, which can only mean one thing: the cops were paid off. This would prove to be a recurring theme for Pledo Bay, as a local cartel started to pack and ship drugs out of the Cluck and Bell factory, which provided many jobs for the town. It's difficult for the residents of Pledo because some had no choice but to continue working at the factory to keep food on the table for their families. The Bank of Pledo Bay was also robbed under strange circumstances sometime during 2013. The thieves knew exactly how to prepare for the robbery and how to escape, using the Cluck and Bell factory as cover from the choppers and the military, never to be seen again. This caused an even greater financial loss to the local community, as the thieves caused massive amounts of damage to the town while making a getaway. They shot down a helicopter that crashed into an apartment complex right next to the bank. They ran through people's yards, and local businesses got riddled with bullets before too long as well. This was a multi-million-dollar loss to the town, and the residents would soon feel the very impact of this event. And Pledo has never been the same ever since. It still gets by and hasn't been deserted like Sandy Shores or Grapeseed, but the local corruption could cause problems in the future. Corrupt officials might start to question how much they could really get away with and push it to the absolute limit. Luckily, a good-hearted cop who goes by Vincent out of the Vespucci Police Department has started to crack down on the operation on his own, working with an unknown party or person to rob the cartel day in and day out, right out of the Cluck and Bell factory. Over time, this will hurt the cartel, and the state government might start to catch on to the operation soon enough. Hopefully for the people of Pledo Bay, this would bring back order into the town and restore the peace that once was the calm, spirited town that has already gone through so much. Blaine County simply didn't stand the test of time. With officials letting its many towns go and criminals moving in, it created a bad mixture that was set to blow. Sandy Shores was supposed to be a historical getaway town, rich with history and culture of the past, a place where Vinewood celebrities and county locals could come together and have a great time. Festivals could be held in the deserts of Sandy, but unfortunately, none of that ever came to fruition. Instead, the sheriff cut a deal to compromise the town after the government failed the locals by letting corporations make Sandy Shores their own personal landfill. Grapeseed met an early demise because there was no diversity in industries present in the town. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as some towns are geographically beneficial for some industries like fishing and farming, such as Grapeseed, but the baggage of Sandy Shores leaked into Grapeseed, and from there the town was never the same again. Not quite as bad as Sandy Shores, but not far from it, especially if the future is looking stagnant for the small town and its residents. Pledo Bay had an advantage in that it was never reliant on one industry, like we went over. Many industries were present in Pledo Bay in the past and still today. Unfortunately, the recession brought its own challenges that not even Pledo Bay could conquer, and the major bank robbery certainly didn't help Pledo's tough times either. Although Pledo had a major difference over the other two towns, a major similarity still stands as possibly true. All the towns just had plain old bad luck, mixed with some local corruption as well. If the officials were perfect humans and the recession never came and the Alamo Sea was never filled with toxic waste, I could see all of these towns still thriving today. But that in and of itself is a sign of a good town. It should be able to stand the test of time and have a solid foundation to build upon. When recessions happen or funding is needed for public development, you fund it because you want your town to grow to the best of its ability. In a perfect world, all of the above happens to all three towns to further develop them. But unfortunately, San Andreas doesn't reside in a perfect world, and it's the common folks who feel it most over those in power who sit at the throne and reap the benefits of our demise. Thank you all for watching. I deeply appreciate your time and I hope you enjoyed yourself here. Please subscribe and leave a like for the fantastic YouTube algorithm, and thank you to my channel members KOIAER, STRLTZ, and Anawack. Become a channel member today to get 2 shoutouts each video, and please expect more videos like this in the future. I'm loving the lore videos and you guys are too, so they'll keep coming. And I will see you all later. Have a great day, or night, or evening, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.